super ready. This was someone who ironically we met in the Book of Faces on the other side of town, right? And she also, while not bariatric, I want to put that out there. Bariatric is anyone on a weight loss journey. So whether that is the method that they took is what varies, right? So you can be a bariatric person who opts to do bariatric surgery, which is someone who undergoes the surgery process of it. You can be a bariatric person who opts to do just a lifestyle change, which is someone who does a traditional weight loss journey. You can be a bariatric person who opts to do the injections, which are pretty popular right now. So, bariatric doesn't solely mean that you had the weight loss surgery. So, I want to be very clear about that piece. Happy Sunday. How are you feeling?
Happy Sunday. I'm super excited to be here. You are so cute. That was such a lovely introduction. I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. So, I will tell you, my audience is excited that you're here too. We always like to have new faces jump in and to share their experiences. I'll hop right in because I can talk all day. Tell me a little bit about your weight loss journey. What got you there? Just a little bit of background about you.
Yeah, for sure. In all transparency, so I grew up in a very poverty-stricken environment. So my childhood, I spent a lot of time eating just kind of like a lot of processed foods, things out of cans, like fast food. Even though my family was fairly educated, we really didn't have the means or the time to really eat whole foods and to really take holistic approaches. So I just want to say that it's super important for anyone in all walks of life, depending on your finances, to really understand that the struggle is real and that this is something that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. But there are ways that we can kind of make it out of this. So I went through ups and downs as far as my weight goes all of my life, all through middle school, high school. And then really when I became an adult, I was like, I can't live like this for the rest of my life. And I always loved exercise, but I always had a bad relationship with food because I was never taught to really eat holistically or to eat mindfully. And I did not understand calorie deficits at all. Um, but then when I had a son, I was like, okay, this really needs to change. I don't want to raise my son the same way that I was raised. So I kind of went full throttle and really just like dove into education and really tried to figure out how I could take an approach where I could eat healthier and still maintain my life because it is a little time consuming. So I went back to school and decided to educate myself.
Nice. Oh, I love that. And the fact that you had that motivating factor with your son, that's beautiful. Now, you mentioned something that I've talked about before because a lot of people don't realize, and I used to work in the anti-hunger realm for the federal government. So there people don't realize there is a direct correlation between poverty and obesity. That is such a huge topic that is not always talked about. So I love that
Hmm.
you mentioned that because that was kind of my struggle too. I grew up in a household that we grew up on government assistance. Like the food, there wasn't healthy food options. If I'm being very honest, there were no healthy food options at the bodega. It was like whatever was there is what was there. And so growing up in New York City, fast food places were like the go-to. Like even leaving school, you're going to the pizzeria, you're going to the fried chicken spot. That was the thing. So to undo all of that, how hard was it to unlearn all of the things that you kind of grew up on?
It was unbelievably hard, unbelievably, because just like you and I grew up in the same situation. Like I grew up in a very poverty-stricken area where they target kids. They target people of low income specifically. So, for example, like if you grew up the way that I grew up, then you might have grown up on WIC or you'd be familiar with WIC, which is government assistance. And you can only get certain things with WIC. Now, if you were to run down that list now, like as an older and educated woman, you would see how they're targeting families. Even the types of cheeses that you're able to access, they're all super saturated fats. Um, so it was really hard to kind of like transform that, not so much from an educational standpoint but definitely from like a taste, I would say. I think was like the hardest part because when you grow up that way, like I think it triggers a certain like dopamine too, right? Because you kind of like to eat if you ever like fall into that category like myself. And then if you're growing up super poor and you're eating like tuna fish out of a can or things like that, you find ways to make it fun. And usually that comes from like spices or like kind of like putting a whole lot of stuff into it and now you're eating to taste. I think that was the biggest thing for me was it's easy to throw together a healthy recipe, but making it taste good and making it fun is where you need to get a little bit creative. And it's totally possible you can do that, but it just takes a little practice.
Oh, girl, let me tell you, I still till this day I still struggle because I like flavor. My family is
Hmm.
Caribbean. They're from the
Yes.
Dominican Republic, and we like our flavors. We like, our sazon, our adobo, all that stuff. And like when I look at the sodium content in some of the stuff, I was like, dang, like no wonder I had high blood pressure. Did you
Yeah.
ever have a moment where you're like, oh my God, I was eating myself into a grave and I had no idea?
Absolutely. So, like you just stated, so actually, a friend of mine who's in the chat right now, both Kat and Brittany,
Hey, Brittany, hey, Kat.
I I developed high blood pressure myself, and I couldn't for the life of me understand why. I had already been on my holistic wellness journey, and I was doing fabulous. I was working out every single day, and when I went in, I went and sat with the cardiologist because like the PCP just wasn't enough for me. Like my diet and exercise was above average. Why am I being controlled by a medication? I went and sat with the cardiologist, went through my whole entire lifestyle, my history, and he was like, the damage is done. A lot of times what happens is you're creating all of this damage and all of those saturated fats. This isn't going to change overnight. So the resting part of my heart is having difficulty resting because of everything I've been through. And then of course stress, right? Like it's growing up in a poverty stricken area doesn't just trigger things like food. Like a lot of times it comes with like a lot of stress and things like that. So that's why I ended up in the situation that I'm in. I'm currently still on blood pressure medications, but at a lower dose, and I'm weaning myself off of it, um, slowly but surely. But it's an unfortunate thing because even living like a super holistic lifestyle and eating well and working out is something I struggle with too.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of those things too, because you can change your lifestyle, but sometimes there are things that may not necessarily be reparable. Like it's already like you said, the damage was already done. It's kind of like how do you move forward from that piece that matters. So to your point earlier, we were talking about nutrition when it comes to kids. Were you someone who now, with having a child, do you have any interest in like teaching? Because I think had I known, like we were eating pizza at school, like the school lunches were pizza, chocolate milk,
Yep.
sometimes the ices. Like, do you pack your son's lunch, or do you kind of give him the rundown on what things he could eat?
So he's 15 now, and my journey started a little bit later in his life. But yes, so my son is so, and there's also a fine line because children deserve to be treated like children and they deserve to eat pizza at parties and they deserve to have ice cream. I don't want anyone to think that I would ever encourage anyone to completely just like diminish all of those foods. That's not realistic at all. You gotta let kids be kids. They're at birthday parties and all these other kids eating pizza. Let that boy eat pizza. Um, but it's a choice, right? Now my son understands the background of a good choice and a bad choice. And I
Yeah.
also make sure that he understands how to read a label on a box. And that's the most important part because a lot of people what they don't see is like you said about the sodium, some people just aren't conscious of that. They just weren't educated that way. So if you teach them something, if you know better, you do better, right? So just I very just like subtly try to teach people small things along the way that will help them. So my son being 15 now, we'll go out to dinner. He always has two options. Always. Out of the whole entire menu, he'll pick two of the best things that he wants, and then he has to make a conscious decision. I'm gonna let him pick whatever it is that he wants because he needs to learn how to make good decisions, right? But
Yes.
it's nice to know that now he understands like a good decision from a bad one. But I also give him the leeway to be a child.
I love that. I love the autonomy because I do the same thing with my oldest, who's 16. Oh my God, she'd be like, "Ma, you don't know my age."
Yeah.
Um, my 16-year-old, she does have a lot of autonomy over what she chooses to eat, but the fact that now they have the information is it's really really powerful because it's like you can't force them to eat what you want them to eat, but at the same time, now you're coaching them to the point. How important was it for you to now become a coach? Because you have a lot of initials back there, girl. And I was like, okay, CNC, this and this. Can you tell
Yeah.
us about what you do in the coaching space?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm a life coach. I'm a health and wellness specialist life coach, but I'm also a personal trainer and a certified nutrition coach. All of that truly does tie in together. And the reason that I kind of label it that way is because a lot of people will see me and see my transformation and say, please help me exercise. How do I get in the gym? How do I eat? And it's like, we have to step back just a little bit because a lot of times the first thing that you want to do is start with, there she is. What the fuck? The first thing that you want to do is start with mindset. Like you were saying, like you're a mindset coach. We have to reel all that in. I'm going to get you in the gym. I'm going to get you talking about nutrition and I'm going to get you where you're looking to be. But first, I need to get you in a good headspace. I need to get you in a good schedule and I need to get your time management down because I got to figure out what's the problem here? What are the issues that you're having that's stopping you from getting in the gym? Are you depressed? Are you having issues with addiction? Is there a little bit of anxiety behind that? All of those things are human nature. And I want everyone to understand that every single human being suffers from being a little bit of self-conscious. And that 9 times out of 10, whoever it is that you're talking to, whoever it is that you're going through it with, your friends, your family, all have a little bit of depression and a little bit of anxiety, and you're not by yourself. But we do have to reel it in because we have to start somewhere, right? So let's start with a little bit of life coaching. Let's talk about time management in your schedule. Then let's talk about preparation. Let's talk about why you're not eating healthy. Is it a time restriction? Is it a lack of finances? Is it a lack of education? All of those things can be fixed. All of them. Because I'm going to teach you how you can eat healthy on a very cheap budget because I've done it myself, right? I've had the experience with it. I'm going to teach you how to have better time management. And I'm also going to walk you through those days where you're so overwhelmed that you just want to cry. So instead of doing that, and instead of just dropping everything and just kind of letting it all fall by the wayside and crying for the rest of the night, let me walk you through a different approach. Let me teach you how to take a second to yourself and how to meditate, and then how to prioritize your preparation. Let me show you that it's okay to order out. And let me show you that you don't have to just end your whole entire journey because you had pizza on a Saturday night. Let it go. Let it go. It is what it is. You went out with your homegirls, y'all had a couple drinks, you had some pizza. Sunday's a new day. So get up on Sunday and start over. You don't have to consider yourself a failure. You didn't do anything wrong. You just lived your life. But I think some people get so hard on themselves and they want to be instant gratification is what they're looking for. And then
Yes.
it's like when they don't make it, or if they have a cheat day or they feel like they fall off, then it's over with. And I'm here to encourage you to say that does not have to be the case.
Now I'm gonna ask folks in the chat, have any of y'all ever felt that way where, man, I had a day where I didn't meet my protein goal. Man, I may have eaten that pizza, or maybe I didn't meet my hydration goals. Drop it in the chat. I'm very curious because I know a lot of times we sit with that shame and that guilt and feel like we're the only people messing up in the world. And let me tell you something. I've been able to reframe the idea of failure. I look at failure now as my teacher. That is the lesson, right? Because I know when I fail, that means one, I'm doing some stuff, right? So kudos to me for doing stuff,
Yes.
right? Now, when you're doing stuff, you're going to hit some bumps in the road. That is just the nature of the beast, no matter whether it's your weight loss journey, no matter if you're doing entrepreneurship ventures, no matter if you're going to school. Look at your baby. How many of us have little kids? When they're learning to walk, they're going to fall. We're not going to tell them, you suck because they fell. No, we're going to encourage them to get back up, dust it off, and try again. And some folks in the chat are dropping some stuff. Let's see, binging on Saturdays and restrict the rest of the week. I've worked hard. Yes, we need to get away from all this or nothing thinking weight loss. It destroyed me for 20 years. Absolutely. And
Hmm.
that's the thing. We have to set ourselves up for those small victories. And even when we have those moments where those things don't necessarily align, we need to think about, hey, you know what? I can still fix this. Just because you had a bad meal, and I hate to say bad meal because I hate bad or good, but just because you have a
Hmm.
bad meal doesn't mean the next one has to be bad. You can do better the next hour, right? Like we don't have to wait for a Monday. You don't have to wait for a new month. You don't need to wait for a New Year's resolution to start over. You can start over in the next hour. So give yourself a little grace and just hit the reset button. We still have a pulse and a purpose, guys. So don't forget that. Do not
Amen.
forget that. So let me ask you, Samantha, what would you say to this Samantha
You're
now?
beautiful and keep going.
Yes.
That would be it. Honestly, I think even that Samantha then, I felt discouraged a lot of the time, and all of the advice that I am giving all of you is the same thing that I had to give to myself, and with a lot of friends and family and support and people constantly pushing me. And just kind of pushing me along, saying like, Sam, it's gonna be okay. You're going to get there. Like you just had a baby. You need to give yourself more grace, drink some water, take a walk. It's all the same things that I would tell everyone here. But honestly, have fun. And then there's one thing that I would love to recommend. Um, I read a book that changed my life, and I think it's super, super important to pass this along because any good resources, I'm always here to help. The book is called The 12-Week Year. The entire book is based on no more procrastination. It's all execution. So it teaches you how you can create an entire year's worth of productivity and progress in 12 weeks. And it is phenomenal. It is absolutely beautiful. It encourages you to start a plan and then to go back and to continuously check that plan. Continuously go back to where you started. What is your reasoning and why? And then pick right back up, because like I was saying before, is what a lot of people don't understand is you're going to have bad days. Every human being, you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, and that's okay. At the end of every day, as long as you tried your best, then it was a good day.
That part. That
Yep.
part.
And then what you said about the lessons, people try to, because of course we all got haters, right? There's haters
Of
everywhere,
course.
right? So it's like, oh, you took an L. I've never in my life have I ever taken an L, ever.
Same.
Because I took that L and I turned it into a lesson. So now what?
Period.
Now, if I was you, I would be mad too. Like,
And I'm telling people because if we start looking at, right, we all, it's an experience, right? The failure isn't it's not a real tangible thing. It's an experience. Whether it was an experience that you could extract a lesson from, or was it an experience that taught you, no matter what, it's going to teach you something, right? If you keep
yes,
your eyes and ears open. So if you are going through, I don't know what anybody in the chat is going through. If you are going through a period that is challenging, if you are going through a period where you feel like things are just not connecting, that's not a bad thing, right? Because it's just telling you this approach may not have worked. Let's try something else. Maybe you don't have all the information. Let's look for it, right? It's not a knock on you ever. And I just want you to look at that and just be like, okay, what is the missing piece here, right? It's not you. It's probably just a nugget of information, aligning with the right people, having, in
hmm
this situation, you have two coaches here, right? Maybe you need a coach. Maybe you need someone who's already walked the walk, who can talk the talk. Like, come on. I love seeing a coach who has walked the walk. There is nothing more annoying to me, and no shade to coaches who have not been through it, but like it's a little different. It hits different when it's somebody who's actually gone through the journey because you get it, right? Do you
yeah.
get that a lot from your clients, and do they always get shocked when you show them do you show them the before and afters?
Always, always. And then I
Yeah.
always have them referred back to my Instagram because my Instagram, I've had the same Instagram since I think 2007. So
Wow.
I love, of course, I like archived a couple of like the pictures just so it wasn't overwhelming. But if you go back to my Instagram, you get to see my journey from start to finish. And I don't think you should scroll through every single picture, but just kind of like a brief overview because it's real life and consistency works. Consistency is key. This didn't happen overnight. I picked up a lot of things along the way. I learned a lot of things. I met a whole lot of people. I created community and friendship, and I had a lot of support. And when I didn't have that support, I supported myself, or I listened to books, like
I was gonna
self-help
actually
books.
ask you that because there was someone in the chat who said it's a little harder because she doesn't have support. And I love that you said that. You said books, and what else would recommend for that person?
Podcasts. Podcasts. I love podcasts. Any kind of like health and wellness podcast. Um, and then I don't know, kind of like I didn't see the person, I don't know her name, but depending on like what your insurance is and where you're at, therapy. You should always go to therapy. If you feel that you don't have support and you have lacking resources in any way, you should always go to therapy. Also on my website, I have a ton of free resources. Everything is completely free. All you have to do is click it and a PDF will come up, and there's a phone number. So 211 is a national number that anyone in the United States can call. And if you're struggling with anything, it'll give you lists for like food pantries, shelters, different therapy, mental health, mental wellness, and all of the resources are free. There's not one person that should ever have to suffer because they feel like they're by themselves or because they don't have enough resources. There are things out there. You're just not asking the right people.
Oof. Girl, you gave me goosebumps because that was the work that I would do. I would answer hotline calls with people who did not know how many resources were accessible to them just because they didn't have the information. This goes to back what I was saying. That doesn't make a person a failure because they can't feed their kids and they just don't have the information. So
Right.
this is I'm actually going to put that information on in the link in bio after this live because that is important and something that I didn't even think about. So thank you, Samantha, for saying that because 211 is a national resource. It's ran through United Way and they do a phenomenal job at connecting people with food, shelter, utility assistance, all sorts of subsidies. So that way, if you need any kind of additional, even mental health resources. So if you are someone who's looking for some mental health resources or just some emergency lines, absolutely positively 211 will have you covered, so make sure you check them out. What's up, Mel Unfiltered? Welcome, Janae. I see y'all. Go ahead and share the live. Tap that screen. We're at 14,000 likes, guys. Thank you. Did great. Okay, perfect. So I know that we were talking a little bit about the mindset piece. We were talking a little bit about just this whole transition of like taking L's and turning them to lessons. I want to talk a little bit more about the nutrition piece because I think one of the things that really stood out to me on this journey is learning to eat again, right? Learning to kind of figure out what's going to work with me on my journey. And I'll share with you a little bit, Samantha, because I had shared this before with the folks in the chat. I was a person who, I just assumed like, oh, rice and beans and chicken, that's cool. Like that's what we grew up on, right? But like I didn't realize, oh my God, I'm eating double carbs. I'm eating, not enough protein. And that was really hard to unlearn, right? And how do you find your balance? Because I feel like it's so much trial and error. Is that just kind of what's supposed to happen here?
Absolutely. It really is all trial and error. And then what I suggest to everybody, right? Because it's also just another free resource is MyFitnessPal. So with you and I, we can even practice it together, and then you could use examples for like the rest of your audience. So
Okay.
like you would create a MyFitnessPal, because this is what I do with all my clients, and then just give me the login. I would set up your macros for you.
Okay.
And then you would just log your foods, and then I would check in with you weekly and just say, dude, you did such a good job on Monday, but if you tried this and this, sometimes it's just the outside eye looking in. It's just another person to say you did a great job, but I have a suggestion. Because what a lot of people don't understand is sugar, right? So a simple carb is something that's like a white bread or a chip or something along those lines, something processed, where a complex carb is a sweet potato or some type of grain. Those are super important things to understand, because simple carbs get broken down differently and they get stored as fat. Complex carbs, you actually use the nutrients from that will sustain energy for your body. Now,
Oh.
yeah, I know. It's such an amazing thing. It's everything is like science. I love science. Um, Now, your body doesn't fully understand that though. When you first digest something, for an example, if you were to just eat an apple, your sugar, your glycogen is going to rise no matter what, because your body doesn't truly understand that you just ate an apple. All it knows is that it had something sugary. But if you were to pair that with something like a protein, that sugar spike isn't going to happen, and the insulin is going to be released slowly. So you don't have to worry about being hungry 20 minutes after eating that apple. So if you were to eat an apple and peanut butter, then that would hold you over and you would be so much more satiated for a very long period of time. And it's literally just simple tricks like that will make or break your diet. And then something that it can be super difficult. So this is a mindset. This is a mind over matter, is a calorie deficit.
Okay.
Now, my expectation is for anyone to ever be hungry. That's never the goal, right? But you can stay in a calorie deficit by eating the right foods that keep you full for a long time. Now, this goes a little bit deep, because
Okay.
if you have a history of a bad relationship with food because you were taught something along the lines of like you have to finish everything that's on your plate. No, you can't get out, you can't leave the table until you eat that. That would be considered a food trauma. So that's something that we have to kind of talk about too. So we have to dive a little bit deeper there, because your brain has been wired to eat high intensity volumes of food. That's not fair to you. So I just want you to know, uh, right off, that's something that your parents instilled with you and probably didn't do that intentionally. But I don't want you to take that away as you're doing something wrong, because you're not. It's what you were taught. But we can break that habit. Now, what we need to do is we need to change the volume on the plate and what's making it up. So instead of having half of the plate being a carbohydrate like rice, what you're going to do is you're going to take half that carb off. You're going to increase the protein and then increase the fiber. So, for example, when I go out to dinner, My go-to for everything is chicken, broccoli, and ziti. I love chicken, broccoli, and ziti. Now, what I do when I order, first thing I do is I ask the waitress, can you please split my meal in half so that I have half to take home? And then can you fill the rest of the plate with broccoli? Because I still want the volume of food. I still want to feel satiated. I want to feel full. And I'm used to kind of eating large volumes. So I want that. But what I want is a higher nutrient based food. So I want broccoli, which has a lot of fiber, and then can you please throw a little bit more chicken on there? And now what I did was I just paid for one meal and I turned it into two, and I felt just as full as I would have had I eaten the whole thing. There's so many ways to play with it. It just takes a little bit of time and practice.
And you know what's so interesting, because to your point about volume eating, right? That was one of the things for me too. And it comes from that poverty mindset, that clean your
Hmm.
plate mindset. So one of the things that, because a lot of the folks in the chat, some may or may not be bariatric, we only have like this much stomach. So a lot of us have to prioritize the protein. So
Hmm.
I do have a little more wiggle room 2 years out, because I had my surgery 2 years ago, and 2 years out I have a little more room, right? I can eat a little bit more than when I had my surgery initially. So that volume eating was like, really killing me from, because I wasn't necessarily supplementing or changing, swapping things out. So what I've been finding is, one, the protein, making sure that that's on my plate. The other thing, I do still need carbs. I thought I was one of those people like, I'm not gonna eat any carbs, that keto stuff. And I'm like, okay, I need to get out of this diet mindset and really get into just like the lifestyle portion of it. So I do still have a little bit of rice here and there. But what I saw, someone did like a trick where they toss into their rice coleslaw, just the plain coleslaw, and like mixed it in there so that it felt like a larger volume, but it really didn't have the carbs or the calories tied to it. And that really satiated my need for the rice, because I got the rice, but it was mixed in with the volume of the coleslaw. And I was just like, and it was literally, the coleslaw, I think, was like 20 calories, zero. It was like ridiculous. I was like, what is going on? Like, why wasn't I thinking about doing this before? Do you think that there's ways to, and you did mention this a little bit, because is there ways to eyeball this, because I'm outside, like it's a little harder. I know you mentioned cutting half the plate, but like, what is something you think that absolutely would be beneficial on your plate? Is it just the protein? Is it just the carbs? Or it varies from person to person? Because some people in this community do not dabble with carbs at all.
Hmm. And of course, these are all just suggestions. Like, I'm just proud of everyone for being here and doing their absolute best. But just from an educational standpoint, you have to have carbohydrates to survive. You need carbohydrates, especially as women, because it'll affect your hormones. So you have to have carbohydrates because your carbohydrates are your main energy source. Your carbohydrates break down and they're what gives you energy to sustain the rest of your day and to sustain your exercise. The protein is for building muscle. The fiber helps with digestion. So let's just put that on the table, right? Because you're going to keep eating your rice, no question about it. But you're going to do things like you said. You're going to add vegetables to them, whether it be broccoli, coleslaw, green beans. The way that I look at it is I always kind of go back to like the color chart. Does my plate look colorful? Is it green, red, brown, like whatever the case is? Like, is there chicken on it, a little bit of carbs, a little bit of veg? You want to have a well balanced diet. Now, I want to take it back real quick because you said something that was super important about the protein. Being able to hit your protein goal is super, super important. But sometimes it triggers issues for digestion because it's hard to digest large volumes of protein, and that's where the fruit comes in. So you want to try your best to incorporate a lot of fruit that's going to help you to digest all of that protein. And then low sugar fruits that are my go-to. I love berries anyway, but are going to be your blueberries, your raspberries, your blackberries, strawberries. All of those things are super important as well. So I want everyone to feel like they left here with like good information because you can have so much volume, right? You're going to have that rice, you're going to put some broccoli in there. So now you have fiber, which also helps with digestion, helps to keep you full. Now you have your protein, it's going to keep you super full. And you also got the carbs that we all love. I eat rice like every day. I love rice. Um, but then I also know I have a fruit bowl waiting for me after this. I have a whole entire bowl filled with a whole mix of berries, and berries are super, super filling. So you're going to have all of the food that you were looking for, and you're going to feel super full. But not only that, you just nourished your body. You're not going to be super tired. You're not going to hit a wall, because let's say you eat that for dinner and then you save a portion of it for lunch the next day. You're not going to be super fatigued. You didn't have all these like crazy high like sugar spikes all throughout the day. You're going to sustain that day and you're going to feel really good about it.
Ooh, yes. And my body's always giving me signals. Like I can tell when I'm not sufficiently hydrated. I can tell when I maybe ate something that I didn't even realize the carb piece that you mentioned earlier, the complex carb versus the things that are not necessarily as, the processed stuff. I didn't even realize that. Like, you just think a carb's a carb is a carb, and it's not true. So
Yeah.
that's really, really interesting. So there's so much science factored into this. And I know for some people, the weight also could be hormonal. Do you have any suggestions for folks who are like PCOS or things that come up hormonally? Because our weight is a little different. I'm someone that struggles with PCOS as well. So do you have any suggestions for that?
I do actually, and thank you for asking that, because it's actually wicked important. And a lot of women, I think, are a little bit too hard on themselves because that's something that you're typically born with, and it's not something that you can just fix overnight. But hormones play a huge factor, and that's why I always encourage every women in particular not to do keto, because in order to help control your hormone balances, you have to have carbohydrates, and you truly do need to eat fruit. Um, that's first and foremost. The second thing I want to talk about is cortisol levels. So cortisol is a hormone that's just built in your body, and that will increase with age. So regardless, it's a stress hormone, which is a super important factor. So when you get stressed out, your cortisol hormone level automatically spikes, and that's why sometimes when you're super stressed, you feel frazzled and almost like your brain isn't functioning, right? Because that happens to us all the time, right? You're crazy running around. So, with women that have hormonal issues, their cortisol levels are already high, which throws everything off. The first thing that I would suggest is that you go to your doctor and check your hormone panel, and check a specific cortisol level. It's typically not covered in by insurance, but it's not so costly. And it's really important because if you can take control of where you're at as far as cortisol, it helps with belly fat. So, what happens is your cortisol levels spike, and then naturally you just become hungry. And then if you're super stressed and food was always like a comfort thing, that's the first place you're going to go. Now after the cortisol levels like kind of calm down, they don't know what to do. It automatically gets stored in your belly and it turns into belly fat. I know, dude, women
That's
have
not
it. It's
fair.
not fair, it's bullshit actually. um but it's actually a scientific fact now. But there's things that you can do about it. So you can take like cortisol manager and you can manage your cortisol, which will actually help you manage stress overall. I suggest for everyone to do it. However, I'm not a doctor, so you do have to check with your PCP or whoever kind of like does like your blood panels. But that would be the first thing that I would check, because you can't outwork a bad diet. So if you're already eating well and you're already working out, then give yourself some grace and go and have your cortisol levels checked. Because if your cortisol levels are super, super high, then it wasn't you to begin with. And you just need something to help supplement that. And I think it's super important, especially for women, because it triggers them the most, to understand that. Once you get control of that, the weight will start to come off. You'll feel much less fatigued. And that constant need for hunger, that like little thing in the back of your mind that's saying, like, I'm hungry all the time, that will go away. And that's huge.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. So much of this is tied to the mindset piece because I feel like so many of us blame ourselves for, our weight or how the weight comes off of us, right? And some of these things may not even be within, I mean, we can help it, but there are some things that are outside of our control. Like we can't necessarily, tell our bodies, okay, now you just regulate hormone. Like you can tell your body, but that doesn't mean your body's going to be like, okay, I'm going to be good now. So it's important to give yourself a little grace. Definitely getting that blood work is important. You guys know that, especially folks who, I mean, everyone, but one of the things that they definitely harp on after bariatric surgery is make sure your blood work is good because you're not even absorbing nutrients in the same way. So you want to make sure that you're staying on top of your blood work. Even our folks who are natural weight loss or folks who are on GLP-1 medications, make sure you get your blood work done because you want to make sure that your body is in alignment, right? Not just the mind, but make sure literally your physical body is in alignment. Let's talk a little bit about the mental alignment because you said so much about stress. Stress is going to make your belly big. Stress is going to make your hair fall out. How do we manage stress while being on this journey? What do you like do with your clients, or what do you suggest?
So the first thing that I do is I do a quick assessment. And then at the end of that assessment, it teaches me what the client is looking to prioritize. What is it that you're truly looking to prioritize? And what are the things that you're going to let go of? Because everything, a lot of times, stress is triggered by control. One person trying to control way too many things that is impossible for one person to truly control, right? Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. So we have to learn to kind of let those things go. Your house should not be clean every single day. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be clean every day. We got to just let it go. And it's like, are you even having company today? Let the house be lived in. I'm not saying live in filth or just like be grungy all the time, but it's okay for your house to be lived in. It is. And it's okay to order out. Like I have a just like a cute little PDF again on my website, totally free, and it's a go-to for ordering out because there's days because I'm human too, right? Or I do meal prep. I prep all of my meals. I forget my lunch all the time. Like, oh my God, like it's 11 o'clock. I didn't even bring my lunch today. You're gonna have to order out. Every human being goes through that. People make mistakes all the time. So just having those quick little tips are gonna reduce your stress. And then check your boxes at the end of the night. So five, no more than five. Anything more than five, you are going to be unbelievably overwhelmed. What are the five most important things to you that you can check off at the end of every night to feel successful? And if you can only check three of those boxes, then I want you to jot down why so you can either allow yourself grace or you can try your best to do better the next day. For example, though, I want people to understand these five things don't have to be like, oh, I ran a marathon. No. Did you drink enough water today? Did you eat a healthy meal? Did you check in with yourself? Did you give yourself any attention or any self care? Did your children survive? Right?
Yes.
Five, five very simple things, basic human needs, especially for women or even men that are single parents that have children. You have to take care of you in order to take care of someone else. So just simply saying to myself, did I drink enough water today? Did I eat any healthy meals? Did I take time to myself to exercise? Those are things that I want you to be able to check off. Who cares if the laundry got done? Like, of course you care, and it's sitting in the back of your mind because you're the adult in the house, right? You're the one that has to get it done. But it should never get to the point where it's stressing you out, right? You only have one pair of socks left. Just thank God for that pair of socks. It's a tomorrow problem, and just let it go. Um, Things can't be perfect all the time, even though we want them to, and even though we try so hard to really strive for perfection, to do our absolute best, we have to give ourselves more grace, and it's not worth the stress.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. That beautiful and liberating because I'm a person that tries to. I have a lot of moving pieces, right? I mentioned that at the beginning of my live. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I have my business. I have one of my kids has special needs. So it's like a lot of things, and you want to do them all in one day. But the reality is, like, while you're doing those things, are you taking care of you, right? Because I can want to do all of these things, but if my health declines because of me neglecting me, I'm not going to do anything, right? So I don't know who this resonates with in the chat, but if there is someone out there who is putting all these other things before yourself, now is the time. If you were looking for a sign, this is your sign. You have to prioritize yourself. And I'm saying this to me too, because without your health, there is absolutely nothing else, right? Your kids, the last thing you want to do is put them in a position where they don't have you because you didn't do the things you could have done for them to have you there long term. So that is super duper important. Thank you for saying that, Samantha, because I think a lot of us get caught up in life, right? And none of us are exempt from life, just in case y'all thought. Like, none of us are exempt from life.
Life be life and
Life be life, For real, we can't account for health issues. We can't account for loss. We can't account for the stressors that are outside of our control, right? The only thing we have control of in that equation is how we respond and how to react to those things, right? So how are we going to react moving forward when we have all the things in the world coming up against us? What are we going to do, right? I want y'all to tell me in the chat one thing you're going to put into practice for yourself that's going to make sure you take care of you. And that can be something as simple as, you know what, I'm going to take 5 minutes extra on the toilet just to have quiet time, because I do that. And that is my own
Yep.
quiet space. And I'm not even using the bathroom. I'm just literally just sitting there quietly. What is one thing you're going to do for yourself this week? We're going to start this week. What's something that you're going to do for yourself to take care of you? For me, I definitely have to keep doing better with my hydration. That is a pain point for me, but certainly not something that's impossible. So I am promising to myself that I'm going to meet my hydration goals for the rest of the week. We're going to do micro goals, right? Because we want small wins so that they build up over time. So my small win for this week is going to be staying on top of my hydration, or at least getting as close as possible to that goal. What's something you're going to do for yourself, Samantha, to take care of you this week?
I am going to go to bed on time when I said I'm going to go to bed so that I get the proper sleep that I need to. I'm not going to scroll and I'm not going to binge watch TV in the middle of the night. I am going to sleep.
That is hard. I go down the TikTok rabbit hole all
Hmm.
night. It's terrible. Terrible. So Kia said I'm taking an extra 15 minutes at the gym to do more mirror love for myself. Yes, I
Hmm.
love that. I'm gonna send you lots of reminders for your water goals. Thank you, Tony. See, this is why I love community. Y'all keep me accountable, and I appreciate that. Well, my one of the folks on my team says eat. I'm not waiting for it to be 1 or 2 o'clock to eat my first meal, then make a bad choice. Oh, love that. Love that. The fact that you're even conscious that you do that, that's the first step, right? Knowing where there's room for improvement. So that's a great, great first step. Let's see what else we got in the chat. Nope, that was it. So I want you guys to really think about this for this week. And before tonight is up, I want you to think about something that you want to do for yourself this week. And it doesn't have to cost you absolutely nothing.
Hmm.
I'll give you another cool tip. This was something, sometimes you got to step outside of your environment, right? So I'm home 98% of the time because I have my son who's a year. He's not in any daycare or anything now, so I have him with me all day, and then my little one who's special needs, she goes to her program during the day, and then my teenager, she's like her own person, so I don't really bug her, or she doesn't bug me, so we're good. So what I did, dad was off. And so when I dropped her off at the program, I deviated. Took a detour and went to the park and just sat by the lake, just like literally doing absolutely nothing. I put my phone down. I mean, it was close by just in case, because you never know. But I was just sitting there, just taking in the nature. And you know what's so crazy, Samantha? It was weird, right? Because it was like I started getting a little nervous. I'm like, should I be scrolling through my phone? Like, this is so
Hmm.
quiet. Like, that piece was awkward, and that made me really, really start thinking, like, why is peace awkward for me? So
Hmm.
definitely need to ground myself more. Grounding yourself, Taurus Earth energy, absolutely, gang. Taurus gang. um what's your sign? I don't know if you practice any of that.
I do. Wicked. I'm a Pisces.
Pisces. I knew I caught a
Yeah.
vibe. I love
Yeah.
Pisces. My husband's a Pisces. My son's a
Nice.
Pisces. And my mother's a
Oh,
Pisces. So
that's
I'm
sweet.
surrounded by my water friends. I love that. I love that. So I know we're getting close to the hour, guys. How do they stay connected with you, Samantha? I know you kind of briefly mentioned your offerings. What other things could, people connect with you about?
Yeah, of course. So any type of coaching, realistically, anything based around like the health and wellness space, um, life coaching, nutrition, or personal training. My website is Samantha's M World, and then my Instagram is also Samantha's M World. You can also find me on YouTube. I would really like for my website to be utilized the most though, because it's where all of the free resources is. And when I say free, I mean completely free. Literally just click on it, it's just a link. And I did that intentionally because and money should never have anything to do with your health. And like you said, just using that nationwide hotline, the 211. Um, I really am here to just like support people. And I know that we're really short on time, but can I mention one thing?
Of course.
So this is just based off science as a trainer. So I'm so proud of anyone that's on a journey, and this is not to be controversial because I'm proud and I love you all. But I want to state, so I've worked with a lot of clients that are on Ozempic. And if you've never had a DEXA scan before, I encourage that you have one because what we're finding is that you're not actually losing fat. What you're losing is muscle mass, which can be super dangerous.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been out long enough to do studies. So if you are taking that route, I want to encourage you to do that, but just strength train. So the only way that you can fix that is by exercising with heavy, heavy weights because you want to continuously build that muscle. You never want to lose muscle. You want to make sure that it's fat. So check in with your doctor. And I only know that because I'm working with so many clients right now that where I have to scan them every 6 to 12 weeks. And every person that I've worked with thus far has only lost muscle, not fat. Which is a little concerning to me as a trainer that's constantly trying to work with people to coach. And I don't want anyone to ever be in danger. And later on in life that could affect you as far as like osteoporosis and things like that. So please make sure that you're strength training, super heavy weights, don't hurt yourself. And if you need questions, feel free to reach out to me. I really do. I'd love to help. Take the route that you're taking because it's working for a lot of people. You just want to make sure that you're incorporating increasing muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Someone
Dex,
asked me if
I
I can get one, a DEXA scan, because I feel like, does the gym typically have that, or do you have to pay for that separately?
Yeah, unfortunately, right now it's like up and coming. You can get it on Amazon though, which I highly recommend. The DEXA scans off Amazon work. They totally work. They're way cheaper than having to like drive to some doctor or provider to get one done. If you don't feel safe with that, ask your PCP and they'll give you a referral to get a DEXA scan.
Okay. Okay. Well, you heard it here, guys. I know that Samantha is here only for the hour, but please do connect with her. Make sure you check her out on all her platforms and on her website. Can you drop the website one more time so that someone, mods, if y'all are in the chat, can you just put the website in the chat? Can you give them the website one more time, Samantha?
Yeah, of course. It's samanthasmworld.com.
samanthasmworld.com. Thank you guys because there are a lot of great resources. I was scrolling through the page. So I love that you're so conscious of people because I think a lot of times when we see trainers or coaches, they're so focused on the what they can get out of the
Hmm.
situation as opposed to what they can provide. So the fact that you're so willingly providing these tools and resources on behalf of any and anyone who has used it or who is about to use it, I just want to say thank you because it is really valuable and important. And for moms who like myself at one point survived off of food stamps, survived off of wigs, survived off of all these things, like sometimes we just need a little bit of help, and the fact that you
Yeah.
have that readily available, that is freaking awesome. Yes, samanthamworld.com. Thank you so much, guys, in the chat for helping out with that. Samantha, any final thoughts before we wrap up for the night? Anything on your spirit to just drop on the chat?
The only thing I'm going to say is just once again on the website. I forgot to mention this earlier. There's actually free workouts too. So it's me demonstrating. I tried to make it nice and sweet because express workouts are really good. So there's 30-minute workouts also that are available that are completely free. And I'm proud of every single one of you. This is a journey, a lifelong journey, and have fun with it. It's not supposed to be stressful. You're supposed to love your life and love the skin that you're in, love your body, and just have a great life.
Yes, I love that, love that, love that so much. You guys, thank you so much. We got to 25,000 likes. That is freaking awesome. You guys, you've been amazing. Thank you for dropping gifts on my friend Samantha. She's been awesome. Samantha, I want to say thank you for joining me this evening. You've been such a gem. Like, we will definitely be revisiting this because I think that there is some more we can add. Like there was so much to cover, but I feel like you would geek out with me because I like the science too. So I think I might have to revisit another live with you so we can talk a little more nerdy topics. There's a few folks in the chat that appreciated that topic too because we do talk about it, but the way you put it is a very user friendly way. So thank you for doing that.
Of course, I would love to. I'm so excited. I had so much fun.
Yes, likewise. You guys, I appreciate you in the chat. You guys know I can't leave you without my quick word of affirmation. People throw shade on what shines, my friend, but when in doubt, shine brighter, my friends. I will see you next week, Sunday. Love you guys. Make sure y'all take a picture for me. Yes, take a picture, take a picture. Oh, they're gonna send the picture to me, and then I'm gonna send it to you. We always
Sounds
close out
good.
with a little shades, so they gave you some digital shades. So thank you, whoever dropped those shades, Drew. Thank you. Until next week, Sunday, guys. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Samantha.